Good Monday morning. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. And Miller, I'm surprised you made it in. One, because it's the day after the Super Bowl, and two, it was your first major snow since you moved here from Georgia.
Absolutely. 13.7 inches over the last 3 days. I will tell you this, when I walked in this morning, it was like a parade. Thank you so much. Miller, you made it! I don't know if you were happy or you were stunned. I couldn't tell.
Both. I mean, I was a little worried about you over the weekend. I think we all were.
Well,
we
I appreciate
you
that.
can do it, Miller. It's not too bad.
Well, I got through it, and a lot of folks are very nice about sending me some tips and some pointers, and I took every one of them to heart and used it and did well. Even my wife had to get out and run a few errands yesterday, who is just deathly afraid of driving in the snow, and I think she made it back. No, seriously, no, she did. And so I just want to thank everybody for the tips, and also the tips on how to shovel the driveway. Really came in handy, and I'm very proud of myself. I got it down to less than 30 minutes yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, so look at me. I'm becoming a Montana boy, and I'm going to be dangerous here pretty soon. All right, live look downtown here. Folks, the big story is, first of all, those roads are slick. I hit some slick spots coming in this morning. It is getting cold out there. That view courtesy of the great folks at Stockman Bank, the weather cam. Minus 11 at the airport. Feels like minus 25. Winds out of the north at about 6. You see a lot of minuses there, especially central Montana and moving to the east. A little warmer there to our west, and down in northern Wyoming, you got some minuses there too. In fact, some of us, especially here in Billings, we may not get above 0 again until we get to the weekend. That's just how cold it is out there. And look at the wind chills. Absolutely brutal. If you can stay indoors over the course of the next few days, do yourself a favor. If you're outdoors, you got to bundle up. You got to watch out for frostbite and hypothermia. We could see some flurries today. Not a big snow event. It's just going to be a little too cold for that on this football hangover day.
We're not hungover.
Of course. You know what? Somebody told me there was a lot of drinking going on a Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, none for us. But I think for the people watching, probably not either, because if you had a few too many drinks, you're probably still asleep.
Probably. This is one of those mornings we should just yell everything we do, because the headaches, And on that note, by the way, a lot of folks just watch the Super Bowl nowadays just for the commercials, especially yesterday after the first quarter. It was pretty much over with Tampa Bay dominating. What was your favorite Super Bowl commercial? If you've got any comments, go to my Facebook page and we'll try to share some later on this hour.
I wish I knew of one, but I don't. So it was on, but I was just busy and doing stuff. So
yeah. Well, hey, and kudos to Victoria. She picked the winner. Boom, right there.
I wanted to nickname them the Buckaroos. That was the only
now
reason.
You can.
Yes.
All
right, Miller. Thank you. I'll get to news, and it's about Super Bowl too. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won Super Bowl 55 last night, beating last year's champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Tom Brady, the oldest player to ever win the big game, is now 7-3 in Super Bowls and says he's not quitting yet. CBS's Skylar Henry is outside the stadium with more on the game and the healthcare workers in the stands.
Announcer jinxes. Here's Brady's pass. It's Gronkowski.
Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took the lead in the first quarter of Super Bowl 55 and never looked back.
Fournette, touchdown.
The Bucs thrashed the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9 behind 3 touchdown passes by Brady, including 2 to his former Patriot teammate Rob Gronkowski.
I think we knew this was going to happen tonight, didn't we?
Meanwhile, the Bucs defense pressured Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes all game long and held Kansas City to just 3 field goals.
They beat us pretty good. The worst I think I've been beaten in a long time.
43-year-old Brady remains undefeated against Father Time, winning a record 7th Super Bowl and 5th MVP.
We're coming back.
We're coming back.
You know that.
Tampa Bay was the first team to play the Super Bowl in its home stadium. About 25,000 fans were in the stands, including about 7,500 vaccinated healthcare workers.
Not the outcome anyone wanted, not the game anyone wanted.
These Chiefs fans from the University of Kansas Medical Center were disappointed in the game, but like the fight against COVID-19, remain optimistic for better days ahead.
It's been a rough year, but I think all of us in healthcare are going to build it back. We're going to come back stronger, and we're going to do the same with the Chiefs, right?
The entertainment for the night included Eric Church and Jasmine Sullivan, who sang the national anthem. The Weeknd performed the halftime show. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Tampa.
And Tampa Bay head coach Bruce Arians becomes the oldest head coach to win the Super Bowl at 68 years old. Now closer to home, drivers came face to face with snow-packed streets and highways, making for severe driving conditions. I90 west of Billings saw multiple crashes and pileups over the weekend. On Sunday, one person was seriously injured when 5 semis and 2 pickup trucks piled up about 6 miles west of Park City. Several of the semis caught fire and traffic was diverted all day from the Park City exit to Old Highway 10 to Columbus. And on Saturday, another pileup in the same area involved 20 vehicles. The second Senate impeachment trial for former President Donald Trump gets underway tomorrow. CBS's Elise Preston explains what to expect.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are set to be jurors and prosecutors this week as former President Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial begins Tuesday. He's accused of inciting the deadly Capitol riot on January 6th.
Now, the Senate must honor their oath and impeach Donald J. Trump to hold him accountable, but also to bar him from running for public office ever again.
That is unlikely to happen. Dozens of GOP senators have challenged the constitutionality of impeaching a now private citizen. And with a 2/3 vote required to convict, Mr. Trump will likely be acquitted.
Zero chance of conviction. 45 Republicans have said it's not even a legitimate proceeding, so it's really over before it starts.
In a 14-page pretrial memo, Trump's attorneys also argue the constitutionality of the proceedings, while denying his remarks are what sparked a violent mob to swarm and rush the Capitol last month. 9 Democratic Congress members will serve as prosecutors, known as impeachment managers.
Let's turn to the impeachment trial.
In an exclusive sit-down with CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell, President Joe Biden addressed the upcoming trial.
I ran like hell to defeat him because I thought he was unfit to be president. I've watched what everybody else watched, what happened when that crew invaded the United States Congress. But I'm not in the Senate now. I'll let the Senate make that decision.
The former commander-in-chief is not expected to testify under oath. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts will not preside over the historic impeachment trial since Trump is now a private citizen. Democratic Senator Patrick Leahy will oversee the proceedings. It is not clear how long the proceedings will take. And meanwhile, Wyoming Congressman Liz Cheney broke her silence, giving a public interview for the first time since the House voted to keep her in her leadership position after she voted to impeach former President Donald Trump. Many in the Republican Party called for Cheney's ousting from the third-ranking House position after her impeachment vote. She was also officially censured by the Wyoming Party on Saturday, but Cheney has rarely wavered in her decision, even when she spoke to Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday.
Would you vote to convict President Trump of incitement of insurrection?
If I were in the Senate, I would obviously listen to the evidence. I think that that's the role the Senate has as jurors. I would also point out, though, Chris, that the Senate trial is a snapshot. There is a massive criminal investigation underway, but I obviously believe and did then that what we already know is enough for his impeachment. What we already know does constitute the gravest violation of his oath of office by any president in the history of the country. And this is not something that we can simply look past or pretend didn't happen or try to move on. We've got to make sure this never happens again.
Now back here in Montana, as marijuana becomes legal in our state, new projections say DUIs could increase due to pot use. MTN's Andrea Lutz investigates why some say Montana's new measure is a law with gaping holes.
I was working in this school zone here.
Here on Poly Drive.
Just looking for speeders, really.
Officer Eric Schnellback watches.
He admitted to smoking just before driving.
As a member of a specialized traffic enforcement team, he's usually watching for speeders.
He kind of started to realize that maybe he was impaired.
But one school day morning
has the same dangers as alcohol.
He found himself stopping someone driving high on pot.
You know, I think he knew that he couldn't do it, but he didn't realize that he was impaired. I think it's just a big awareness issue with people not knowing how little it takes.
As of January 1st, it's no longer illegal for recreational use with some guidelines. Montanans over the age of 21 can possess an ounce of marijuana. But when it comes time to prosecute illegal activity still associated with pot use, that's where things get complicated.
There were some gaping holes in this initiative that are already causing me concern.
And because of that, Yellowstone County Attorney Scott Twido says they're trying their best to prepare for a surge in DUI cases.
Once it gets up and going, we're looking at 2,700 more DUIs per year statewide, which is a huge number. If it comes close to that, even less than that would be a lot for local law enforcement agencies to take on.
A recent Montana Department of Justice study says Montana could see a 77% increase in DUI cases, taking into an account a similar increase seen in Washington state after pot was legalized there.
Despite what people think, it is going to lead to an increase in DUI events. That takes resources, right? That takes officers, that takes prosecutors. I got to put prosecutors in courtrooms. It's not even a penalty right now for someone over the age of 21 to give their marijuana to someone over the age of 18.
So let's look at what's happening in nearby states where pot has become legal. In Colorado, a study found fatalities have increased since 2014, with an additional 75 deaths a year. But meanwhile, in Washington state, the same report says traffic-related deaths have remained relatively stable. Proponents of the marijuana measure say it's going to be up to lawmakers in Helena to take charge in defining the way impaired driving is prosecuted.
We made some recommendations in the initiative, and we hope that the spirit of those carries through to the legislature. And
Pepper Peterson is president of the Montana Cannabis Guild and says the measure was designed to allow local governments to spend some portion of marijuana tax dollars, including supporting local law enforcement.
A false dichotomy is sometimes drawn that, the people who support marijuana legalization don't support safe communities. And that's just false. I think that most of the people I know that are marijuana consumers are good citizens and they're good people.
While research has shown Montana's new illegal pot law could bring in as much as $50 million a year in revenue, by comparison, new numbers show Montana's seen over $100 million in medical marijuana sales in the first 3 quarters of 2020.
We're starting to think about, how this money can be used first to offset any potential harm that it may do. I don't think the problem is ever going to with marijuana is ever going to reach the proportions that it has with alcohol.
But hands down, when it comes to driving under the influence of pot, Peterson says,
listen, if you plan on driving when you're high, then you're going to get busted for that. And that's what we encourage the police. We wanted to make sure those resources were available so they could go out there and, make sure our streets were safe.
Back on the streets where officers deal with it.
Just because you feel okay to drive doesn't mean that you are safe to drive. There's been studies that show impairment up to 24 hours after ingesting marijuana.
Officer Schnellback says just like alcohol, sometimes it's hard for people to know their limits.
And it all just depends on how much they ingest, how they ingest it.
So he'll continue to watch.
And the small differences it makes in someone's body could be the matter of some kid's life, in the school zone.
And educate drivers.
Their ability to react to whatever.
To protect our most vulnerable. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
The same field sobriety test for alcohol applies to those driving under the influence of drugs. However, marijuana is measured in nanograms, and 5 nanograms is considered over the legal limit. Yellowstone County officers are currently being trained on the legal aspects of the new marijuana measure.